Hello everyone, this is Nikki, also known as Business Trader. It's March 24, 2021, and it's the day after a Fed speech Powell, wherein inflation fears are getting stoked yet again. So it's been 1 year approximately from the exact bottom of the US market, which was March 23, 2020. It actually bottomed in the Philippine markets on March 19, 2020. We didn't bottom out actually on March 23. March 23, we already had a higher low. So the actual crash of US was actually March 23, 2020. And last night, the world was actually reflecting about how far we've come from a year. So let's understand what happened in the Philippine markets today. The markets today in the Philippines is 6,497 points, up 50 points, 0.79%. You could see that there are a slew of winners today. Your Puregold is now trading at 40.45. Let's understand the index. So your market value continues to be very low at about 6 billion pesos, suggesting that the Philippine market has very little bargain hunting interests. The fact that it's just 6 billion pesos tells you that a majority of the bulls are actually gone, either staying in cash, sidelined, or they haven't really deployed or have deployed, and they're actually either nursing some losses in the Philippine market and so forth. So you could see today that your gainers, we actually argued that Robinson's Retail at 52 seems so low. And today we saw that Robinson's Retail comes out in a bang with a 5% up. Your URC, which is a consumer staple, given the fact that your junk food is actually something that is seen as a resilient company, will actually stay defensive in a market sell-off. So you are seeing Robinson's Retail, you are seeing Meralco, PLDT, as Puregold actually rising. Some names here are actually, I would argue, not as resilient, but still got the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps people are bargain hunting on financials, some properties, some global growth names, but really we'll take a look at the performances, each individual. So let's just read the prices for now. SM Prime and Ayala Land continued going up, 35.3 and 34.9 respectively. You are seeing that Mega World is down 338, so the other properties aren't moving as high as your SM Prime and Ayala Land. If you'll ask me, the buyers on SM Prime, SM, Ali, maybe Ayala Corporation, these are just buying it for cash flow balance sheet reasons. It has nothing to do with them really buying these property stocks as a bullish sign of property stocks in general. So the thing about the Philippine markets is that the Philippine stock index is heavily skewed to a lot of property stocks, and may it be the mall segment of SM Prime, even if the malls in general aren't really on a bullish outlook. Let's wait up, guys. I'll get some water. So let's read some pricing. URC is now trading at 127, got some buyers at 122. You see your SM 970. ICT is 126.5, your BPI is 85, telephone is 1250. I am not surprised why your PLDT, your Globe, and your Converge is actually strong in a market like this, because they are actually very critical. They're critical infrastructure when the Philippines is actually in a closing locking down. I mean, the only companies that should benefit is actually your utility providers, your telecom providers, and your essentials. So your Puregold and Robinson's Retails are actually essentials, which is not really affected by anything happening in the world, in the outside of the Philippines, so, or even outside your home. So your Meralco got that safety net of 280 bucks. Your Puregold is 40.45. Your Robinson's Retail is back to about 57.9. I actually picked it up when it was falling down below 55, because I felt that it doesn't matter if it doesn't go up soon. What matters is that we have conviction to hold on to these supermarkets, knowing that, well, it's a supermarket and drugstore at the end of the day. As long as you know what you own, it's not about the short term. It's about knowing what you own. Now, Emperador is 1038. Metrobank is 46.5. Your Bloomberry is 6.9. DMC is 507. BDO and Security Bank 105 and 119. Your Globe is 1910. Luciatan Group is 1368. Robinson's Land 1768. FGen 29.5. San Miguel is 121. Aboitiz Power 23.6. MPI 374. AGI 1034. GG Summit 5865, GT Cap 511, Mango World is 338, AEV is 35, Jollibee is 177. You could see that the highest risk in the market continues to be the reopening themes, and therefore your GT Cap gets some sell-offs, which is actually normal given that GT Cap is highly skewed for your financials, which is really about the non-performing loans. You're seeing that the market likes financials, but it's neutral if you think about it. If it's too expensive, people would sell it. Only when it's low that people would actually buy it. Let's take a look at the top traded names. Okay, so your DDMP REITs are expected to be stable yields. So 225, 1.5 billion pesos trading that, but it's really just a bond. Your Dito Telecom is 9.8. APL is 1% up, still 50% below its highs of about 40 cents, suggesting that, of course, it has been distributed already to the public. Puregold is 40.45, URC is 127, Ayala Lands 35. Merrimart continues to go down because it was a high growth extended move, high valuations too. Davin is 297, so you're seeing some choppiness. Some people tried to buy some Davin at 250. It's now 297. Up until today, we still don't know whether Davin's going to be 2, 3, 4, 1, 5. I don't know. BPI is 85. Ayala Corp is 731. FIS 203. BDO is 105. Jollibee's down 177. Double Dragon is 13.2. Asin is 6.9. AEV 35. Primex is $2, up a little bit, so 178 to $2. But you could see that these are speculative names that the market likes to go in and out from. PHI is from 8 cents to 8.4 cents, also a speculative name. There might be some buyers at 5 cents, but there's a lot of sellers at 10 cents. It's a huge range for your BHI. Your BSC is now trading at 73 cents. We did see some speculative buyers on DSC before because of that renewable pseudo cheaper renewable energy play. They have to raise money. It's been a while since we saw that these backdoor restructuring plays or companies want to reinvigorate the market with company stories that they're gonna add solar, wind farms, and so forth. So we'll see whether any updates on that. Okay, so your Converge is 19, steady above 17. So you could see that the market likes these telecoms, very resilient because of the broadband connection that every Filipino desperately needs, especially in a pandemic, and of course the post-pandemic world. So all right, it's very clear what the market did. Let's take a look at the top gainers. Top gainers, all right. So some 70 million pesos trading Davin. So I think that we have to take a look at Davin today. Primex also up. Philippines, your PHR is up to about 2.13. So some buyers at about 2 below, thinking that, well, it had a share offering at 168. Although casinos are not expected to be blossoming their businesses soon with, of course, foreigners not getting into the Philippine markets because of the closing of the airlines, it is a good thing that we are still seeing bargain hunting in the Philippine market despite the market climate actually with still rising COVID cases. Okay, so the fact that Cebu Pacific is able to stay above 40, even if very little volume, tells me that, well, at the very least, that tells me that some people are willing to buy these reopening themes and not go hit down to the March 2020 lows at the very least. So, all right, so let's take a look at some of these names that are attractive in the Philippine markets. Let's take a look at it one by one. I'm also going to read your comments, if any. Hi, Nikki. What are your thoughts on tech and DWC? Thanks and God bless. All right. Thank you for the question. We'll answer that as well. Tech has always been trying to raise money, as we said, on their 5G Kintel. It has been sleeping, as you could see, asleep for the last, what's this, almost a year. This is 2019, a low of 366. It had a low of 360 here. So it has been trapped from about 3 to 13 or 300 to 400% range. So now that it's trading at 6.2, I would just say that for the last 3 months, we can only surmise that Surtech is still trying its best to actually raise money So remember that Surtec raised money for their Quintel investment. So I think that if they get that commercial papers going, then it should be positive for the company. Just like this DDMP REIT, it's actually very positive for your Double Dragon. Okay, let's try to look at Double Dragon as well. Let's take a look at what happened to the shares of DD on this successful REIT. So the success of the REIT is actually, the market saw that the successful REITs is actually a negative for your Double Dragon with a drop of 13.2. Perhaps the thinking of the Filipinos is that with the Double Dragon REITs, all of the primary assets have been transferred to this DD REIT rather than in Double Dragon per se, which is perhaps a valid thing. But in the end, DD REITs are, of course, the office space prime grade. So, yeah, I mean, that's what the market thinks. Transferring the assets from Double Dragon to DDMP REITs might have affected Double Dragon in a negative state. But it's also telling you that the market's ability to patronize the DDMP REITs is also saying that, well, the market's appetite for bond replacements is high with the advent of cheap money era. With cheap money, you don't get a lot of interest rates in the bank. So some people would offer REITs that give 5% yields. They'd buy some companies like telecom providers, such as your PLDT. That's why you saw PLDT quickly rising above 1,200. When it fell to about 1,190, a lot of smart people just quickly bought some PLDT. Because it doesn't matter if it goes 1,100. What matters is, well, they collect their cash dividends. And the psychology is, I'm better off getting a 6% yield today in the next years ahead. At least it's better than my money rotting in the bank if they have nothing to think about where their cash should be in. Well, Puregold still rise today with its positive report. Let's try to read about Puregold's reports. In general, I am bullish on Puregold. I felt that it is undervalued, and I argued that we should be buying it at below 38, 35, even if it was falling all the way down. I just felt that, hey, people are discounting the fact that this is a cash flow printing machine. So let's read about the news and disclosures. There's a press release on Puregold. Okay, of course, you don't expect your Puregolds to just keep on rising all day. But at the end of the day, it's not expected to be falling indiscriminately as well. So press release, Puregold's net income grew to 8 billion pesos in the full year 2020, 20%. The unaudited net income represents a growth from 6.77 billion 2019. Net margins are 4.8%. Of course, everyone loves a cash flow machine like Puregold because end of the day, do you want to own a company that prints cash like Puregold, which can actually provide you essential goods? Or do you just want to put your money in nonsense? So I think that there are people who want their money in actual cash flow machines. And in the end, that's what Puregold gives you, a cash flow machine. Our company has had sales of rising 9%, 168 billion pesos. 73% of this is coming from Puregold, 27% comes from our SNR warehouse clubs. Income grew operations. Our EBIT rose to 13.4 billion pesos. Same-store sales growth is 2.4%. Same-store sales growth of SNR is 8.7%. Our company received and achieved a record-breaking year in 2020, even if there's a lot of challenges in COVID-19. We are supporting our suppliers, our employees, doing a best product service, and are committed to our expansions, innovations in grocery retailing. As of the end of 2020, Puregold has 469 stores, including 403 Puregold stores, 20 SNR warehouse clubs, and 46 New York-style QSR. So it's a bright spot in a market that is very bleak. So you could see that our targets on Puregold as high as 50 pesos is not a pie in the sky. It is a real company with real profits, with real supermarkets, with a real essential structural story for the Filipinos to enjoy. So whether you believe it or not, facts are facts. Congrats to the people who believed in Puregold. Congrats to the Awesome10X members who are watching the show and persevered in buying their Puregolds. You've got a great company. So of course, it is expected to be stable. It may not rise every day, but if it falls, you're sure that at 39, 35, 36, there are more people with heads intact who will buy it. My loss for an expectation hurts my small port, but your beauty helps me ease this feeling. Thank you. Don't understand, pero sige. Thank you very much. That's why, okay, let's talk about DWC. DWC is a company that, of course, is suffering. You know, airlines are suffering. Hotels are suffering. What is DWC? A hotel. The good thing is that this company has cash, right? At the end of the day, the markets can go whirlwind on the uptrend or on the downtrend, but the question is, does your balance sheet have cash? And if you have cash, can you take advantage of the opportunities that are there in the marketplace, right? I mean, there is a crisis, there's an opportunity to buy these the drops in your airlines, tourism, right? You've got the restaurants like Jollibee falling to 100 pesos. We've got those Ayala lands falling below 30 bucks last few months, you know. So if it happens, the question is, do you have cash? So I'd say that DWC has promptly bought a lot of assets during the crisis, and that's why we saw consolidation happening. Take a look at what happened on your DWC. DWC is currently one of the premier destination spots when it comes to leisure. I mean, if we're going to talk about world-class resorts, right, we have to talk about the Philippine beaches, and that is something that the DWC has. This is Discovery World Shores, a hotel and leisure business. So when traveling is back, sure, it will go up. But the thing about DWC is not even about the travel story. It's about their revaluation of their Palawan assets, their Boracay assets, and a potential partnership, although not distinctly said yet. There are news that we saw that Mr. Manny Pangilinan might actually be buying some shares of DWC. Now, take a look at this. You had a big uptrend from about 150 to 7 pesos. Some consolidation necessary because we might not know how much Manny Pangilinan will eventually buy DWC. What we could see is it's clearly getting bought here about 4.3, 4.26. Of course, there's very little volume, but you can expect no volume. I mean, for the last how many years? 6 years? There has been zero volume in these DWC. So there are no shares out in the market, and whoever is accumulating this is likely the own company yourself. So we already saw that the market has seen, with the disclosures, that the market has seen the insiders buying up Discovery World 2.7 below. So at 4.30, you're paying how much of a premium to the owners in a short-term price range? If you're buying at 4.3 and accumulating higher, you're paying a 50% premium from the people who got it at 2.7 below. I mean, I think in the short term, anything can happen, but the market will see that if they believe, number one, the catalyst has to do with the assets. As I said, you might have great properties, but if it's not up for sale, it's not up for redevelopment, it's just an idle land, you're sitting in billions of assets. That's all that you've got. So the question that the market will ask you is DWC gonna be properly revalued? Because if it's gonna be properly revalued, well, let's discuss how much a Palawan hectare is, how much a Cebu Boracay hectare is, what is a Siargao land property is, right? So I think that's really how DWC currently is going to be asked about. If you're asking me if I'm bullish on DWC, the answer is yes. I think that DWC 430 to 270 will have a buyer. Now, provided, I don't know if it will get bought by Manny Pangilinan, do they have a real deal? Those things are question marks. ABBA has acquired Libertad. Any thoughts on the effect in the balance sheet of ABBA? Okay, so ABBA is a company that has been doing all of these property revaluation. In fact, they were selling last couple of times, which gave them a lot of cash. And perhaps for ABBA shareholders, they realized that, hey, I can make money simply by selling some of my primary good assets like my retail assets and give these billions to my shareholders, especially if my shareholders are myself. Think about it this way. The only reason why I will issue cash dividends is because I am the largest shareholder and the minority are just a functional happy person who gets also that happy cash flow, no? So the results are ABBA has held a board meeting acquiring Libertad Logistics Integrated Zone Builders via merger acquisition in accordance with the National Internal Revenue Code. Once this is complete, they will own primary properties in Batangas valued at 6 billion pesos, which is at 23,000 per square meter. ABBA's valuation is authorized by the board, and the land that they will own is 20,000 per square meter. Okay, so what has happened here? They're negotiating a joint venture, operations of a logistics center, food terminal, blast freezing facility, warehouses, facilities allied to the Batangas Port Project where the Libertad property is located. I think that ABBA shareholders should be happy that the board of the management of ABBA is very much interested to make money on those properties. So it is a bullish sign. Did the shares actually appreciate over time? Okay, you can see that 2021, the shares have gone from 80 cents to 180. It's now trading at 1.1, showing to you that yes, the market believes that what ABBA's doing is positive. The fact that from 50 cents it's rallied to 1 peso tells you that the market is positive on ABBA. As for whether it can go to 180, in the short term, yes, you've got resistances. Some people might see that, hey, it's not that easy to just go up 100%. Technically speaking, the market is also discounting how easy it is to translate those Batangas properties to revenue generation. So give it some time, but I think ABBA is doing well. I think that the acquisition is positive. The market will probably buy it if it falls. How about the Philinvest disclosure? Okay, so as for the balance sheet, I think the effect is positive. So Philinvest disclosure, let's take a look at the Philinvest disclosure. FLI is one of those undervalued assets that we talked about that gives you a 7-8% dividend if you will always buy Philinvest at 90 cents. So we argued buying it at about below 1 peso last year, doing 111 right now. So you had the capital appreciation, you received the 6 cents cash dividends, and it is, of course, a cash flow machine. So that's the difference when you're buying a cash flow dividend machine versus a company that doesn't give you dividends at all. So let's read about what Philinvest has done, material information. The board has said that they are registering in the REIT Act for cyber zone properties. Again, this is what's happening all throughout the world. Office spaces are in a pandemic challenge, right? And the companies want to get and replenish their money for investing billions of assets in this office property. In effect, what you're seeing is that Philinvest, Ayala Land, DDMP, these are commercial grade properties. They have BPOs, but the outlook, because of the secular trend of work from home, is not as good. So if you're Philinvest and you can flip some of your properties in the market via a REIT, you probably will get some cash and then see whether that cash you could deploy it to some industrial assets and so forth. So from Philinvest perspective, what they're doing is they're making an IPO of the cyber zone properties. Over time, this will actually translate to us 8 peso 30 cents per share. This will actually be the right to purchase will also be given by FLI to itself. Okay. So the thing about these REITs, no? So Philinvest is doing what Ayala Land REIT did. It's also I'm not sure, but most likely, guys, we expect Mega World to also do this, Robinson's Land to also do this. All of the property developers are just following the footsteps of Ayala Land, which is, if I can get some cash, I could convert it first. I have a building worth billions that will give me recurring revenues as well. So, okay, I sell it to the public. 90% of whatever I earn in cyber zone properties, which is a sub-BPO, I give it to the market. Now, chances are these REITs, whether it be the Fly REIT, Ayala REIT, DDMP REIT, chances are even the Philinvest Land shareholders are also the same buyers of these REITs. So it's just like a separation. If I could separate my office properties into a REIT, I'll do that so that my PhilInvest can probably invest that money in land banking, which I think PhilInvest has been doing very much. Notice that PhilInvest has a huge chunk in, I'm talking about hectares and hectares of properties in Pampanga, Clark. So if you're going to ask me, PhilInvest, it is undervalued. I've always been a believer with the company, very stable, has the growth, has the cash dividends to boot. But the market is the market. You cannot force the market to pay up 100% or 50% higher if, of course, the entire sentiment, the liquidity in the Philippines is not, it's not just like, oh, we're bullish. No, you can't just require the market to pay you 100% tomorrow. So it's that case. Hi, Nikki. Is Aboitiz an investment right now? Aboitiz has always been just steady, asleep. It's always just been, if I'm going to argue Aboitiz Power, I don't study it as much, but I think that it has always been a consistent dividend player. Aboitiz has always been just a substitute for Meralco, always been a 5% dividend yield play, consistent. The thing about some Filipinos or some managers or some foreigners, they don't like volatility. And so because they don't like volatility, they just want stable yields. They'll always prefer to own Meralco, Aboitiz Power. And in that sense, if stability is your love, then it is a worthy investment for you. It's all about, it's up to a person. There are people who like stable. There are people who like growth. And in fairness, I think Aboitiz is the stable stock for the Philippine market. How stable has it been? Well, for the last 12 months, Aboitiz Power was steady at about 24 to 26, right? You could see the charts here. Aboitiz Power has left 22 as high as 30, and it's just been in a steady box. So you've got that movement sleeping. Some people would buy it at 23. They know that the dividend is there every year. They give dividends. The cash divs is 1 peso. So it's 5% yield. So I think that's really what Aboitiz Power has been. It has been famous for dividends. I think that's it. I'm not quite sure. Maybe there are more news, but if we're going to talk about defaults here, Aboitiz Power has always been just a stable dividend player. Okay, thank you very much. Of course, I personally prefer your supermarkets, and so I'm happy with the Puregold move. Last but not the least, I forgot to say, I forgot the chart. We saw today the growth move of, nga ba yung mga today, top gainer? Tingnan natin ulit, forgot. Primex, Davin. Okay, so Davin went up. So, I think it's still speculative. I really don't know what the Montosco Wine and Spirits earns, how much the dilution would be. I have no idea, but you could see that, wow, there are some people willing Davin buyers here at about 2.5. So you could see that the lowest that Davin approached before was 1.3. So it's still 100% higher, pero people are buying Davin already here about 250 to 297. So what do we know? It's clear that it's not a 9 to 10 peso company. It's clear that perhaps it's also not a 5 peso company. But what we aren't clear is that, is it a 2 peso to 3 peso range company? It's a guesswork right now. It could be 1, it could be 4, but I think that let's let the market decide. The market knows something we don't, so let's see how low or how high can Davin go. It's interesting that the market is willing to tell you that 2.5, they're willing to buy Davin. In the short term, we can see that the Vinci code is getting bought at 2.5. So if you're bullish, then you could see a bullish trend right now on Da Vinci, 250, but a bearish trend right now at 3.7 as well and 4.5. So in the short term, you have these sellers at 4, but in the short term as well, you could see very huge ranges for Da Vinci. Why did the market buy up Primex? No idea, but very bullish move. I don't know. 750 all the way to 1 peso. I don't know. Maybe some people think it's cheap, but bullish move. Some bulls are willing to buy some Primex shares here about 160 to 2 pesos. So we'll watch the moves on Primex. Something is brewing, which maybe you as a listener could give us some ideas. Tell me something that the market knows. So what went up? Da Vinci Code, ano pa? Si Da Vinci, si Primex, mga si PHR, si Robinson's Retail, si PHR support resistance, si Robinson's Retail, supermarket lang naman to supermarket and drugstores. So for Robinson's Retail, we know that there is a seller at about 70 pesos, no? So obviously, the downtrend has been finished for your Robinson's Retail. Congrats to the people who persevered. You could see that this is a strong uptrend for Robinson's Retail. And the company has a resistance here at about 70 or even at 65. Perhaps there's some sellers here at about 65. As of Puregold, the resistance right now would be here about 44. Probably some people would also sell at 42, no? 42 to 44, and then aggressive sellers here at about 50. Hintay lang yan, but it's very clear that okay na. There will be many buyers here at about 38 if it ever fell. You know that there are buyers really willing to buy Puregold because end of the day, the downtrend has ended. Puregold is ready to go up. So yun na yun. So Puregold, Da Vinci Code, Robinson's Retail, Primex, 4 great companies that are getting a bullish move in the Philippine markets. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.